Welcome to My Shade of Beautiful, a collection of my personal stories and experiences about marrying the man of my dreams, creating a family, and realizing after 9 years that we weren't going to be able to pray the gay away. I'll be sharing about how we ultimately decided to end our marriage while continuing to maintain a sense of family, and my journey to becoming an LGBT ally while processing through my Christian values. All right, guys, the commentary. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. This episode was hard to record. The first time I did it was not successful. It made me just really emotional, like going back to, that first time we had, the very first conversation about just how he was feeling, and like it was heavy. I needed a minute to process. Anyways, so just kind of give you guys some context and like what was happening at the time. And our son Nigel was probably only around 3 months. I mean, he was little itty bitty baby. Eva Lee was just, a little over 1.5 years at the time. And so it was kind of like, damn, we just recently had a baby, and this is kind of like a bomb going off in our life, I remember when Kyle came and told me about, one of the first conversations that he had had with Jesus. I was in the kitchen and I was cooking or something like that. And I was like, he told me, and I was like, oh wow, that's so sweet of Jesus to say that we can ask any questions. Oh, that's so nice of you. But then I'm like, oh shit, what if I don't like your answers? I'm sure a lot of us have been in those positions where it's like, oh man, I don't really know if I want to ask that question because I don't know if I'm really ready for that answer. That is definitely how I felt, so yeah, at this point we have been married for 8 years. 8 years? Yes, 8 years. And, once God told us that we could start asking the hard questions, we did. We started doing a lot of research on the internet, talking to different people who had had different experiences with kind of the topic of, gay Christians, what that meant, what they believed, how they got to that place where they believed that. This season for us was oh man, it was very consuming. It was very all consuming. It was all we talked about. Again, we just did a ton of research, a ton of reading, and it was exhausting. It was emotionally exhausting. And, for us, we had 2 questions that we were asking, okay? Number 1, is homosexuality really a sin? Okay? Now, once we had the answer to that question, which we obviously came to a conclusion that no, homosexuality is not a sin. And then our second question is, what do we do with our marriage? So just because we came to the conclusion that homosexuality is not a sin didn't automatically mean that we were going to end our marriage. And it didn't automatically mean that we were going to stay married. So, I've said in my very first episode, I am not an advocate for divorce. Again, just because divorce was and has been our outcome doesn't mean that that's right for everybody. We had to figure out, okay, now that we believe this, what is going to be best for Allie, for Kyle, and for the kids? What's going to be best for our family? How are we going to be able to thrive? Because every family is so different, and, there's so many components to us making the decision that we made, right? But, up until this point, again, here we were believing that he could be healed from being gay. And for the first time in my life, things could possibly look very, very different than what I had always planned. Obviously, I had never imagined getting a divorce. That was not in my playbook. We wanted to have a lot of kids, guys. We wanted to have 7 kids, and we were only at number 2. So it was like, wow, life could look really different. oh my gosh, in so many ways. And that for me was so scary. I mean, so scary. The thought of being single again, the thought of, splitting the kids and finances and living arrangements. I mean, if you talk to anybody else who has just been through a divorce, just in general, those questions become so, they just consume you. They consume you. I mean, even down to, the tiny little things like, are the kids going to have a dresser at their dad's house with clothes, or am I just going to pack their clothes here and send it to them? I mean, there's just so many things that go through your mind, and it is paralyzing at times, so stressful, can really, it can really put you in a tailspin, So again, for the first time in my life, there was this possibility that things could look totally and drastically different. It was really, really scary. So at the time that we started doing research, we started to kind of slowly fill in our really close friends and some family and let them know, like, hey, this is what we're looking into and researching. And hey, we would love it if you would just pray for us as we go through all this, and just pray for wisdom, just pray for wisdom. And, as we began to tell people, shocked is an understatement as far as, what people thought and felt about, hearing us say, hey, we are rethinking everything that we've been taught. So, people were shocked and didn't quite know how to even process the fact that we were processing this. It was a huge wrench in the plans, not just for us, but for people who were super close to us. Seeing them have such a hard time with it was definitely, a whole nother set of challenges. To be super honest, people didn't process it really well. There was a lot of course, questions, and I'll say this. I think a lot of people didn't quite take it seriously either. They heard us say, hey, like, we're looking into this, but I think at the end of the day, they always thought, like, no, like, they would never end their marriage. It won't ever go that direction. They just need some time to process things and to think things through and that kind of thing. And then when we did officially finally come out and say, hey, we're ending our marriage, again, there was like that shock, just like, wait, what? Like, okay, I know you guys are talking about this, but like, whoa. So I'll probably do a different episode on people's reactions and kind of, more detail into that, because that is its own thing. But guys, so this conversation that we had on our little green love seat was kind of the beginning of it all. It was an intense season after that for the next few months as we did our research and started having conversations with people. All right, guys, well, that is all for this commentary. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, if you guys have any questions regarding this, let me know. I would love to hear your questions. You are amazing. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the My Shade of Beautiful podcast. My name is Allie Ann, and I would love nothing more than to connect with you. You can get in touch with me on Instagram at myshadeofbeautiful, or shoot me an email, myshadeofbeautiful@gmail.com. Last but not least, if you love what you heard today and it touched you in some way, feel free to give it a share with your friends and pals. Yay! Thanks so much, guys.